love, pain, truth.
Julian stood in the center of the massive garage, his hands clasped behind his back, breathing in the scent of specialized wax and cold concrete. To anyone else, the garage might have looked like a museum. It was climate-controlled. The floor was spotless epoxy, and the lighting was designed to make everything inside look like a jewel. But for Julian, it wasn't enough. He was a man who built things, bought things, and conquered things. Yet he always felt a strange, hollow emptiness in his chest.
He thought that if he just found the right object, the perfect possession,
that feeling would go away. That was why he had spent $2 million on a car. It wasn't just any car. It was a vintage 1962 Ferrari 250 GTO. It was red, low to the ground, and curved in a way that made it look like it was moving even when it was standing still. Only 36 of these cars were ever made, and Julian had spent years hunting one down. He didn't buy it to drive it. In fact, he rarely drove any of his cars. He bought them to own them. He liked knowing that he had something other people wanted, but couldn't have. It made him feel powerful. Elena watched him from the doorway of the kitchen. She was holding a dish towel, her hands wet from washing the dishes from lunch. She wore a simple gray sweater that had started to pill at the elbows and a pair of jeans that had faded years ago. She looked at Julian, who was wearing a custom-tailored suit that probably cost more than she made in a year. He was gently stroking the fender of the new car, his face soft with a look of adoration that Elena hadn't seen on his face since their wedding day. Maybe even longer. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Julian asked, not turning around. He knew she was there. He always knew, but he rarely acknowledged her until he needed something. "It's a very nice car." "Julian," Elena said quietly. Her voice was tired. She had been up since 5 in the morning, managing the house, paying the bills, and making the phone calls she dreaded making every day. Julian finally turned to look at her. But his eyes slid past her face, checking her appearance to make sure she looked presentable enough to be in his house. "It's not just a nice car, Elena. It's an investment. It's art. The value on this is only going to go up. In 5 years, it could be worth $3 million. Do you understand what that means?" "It means security." Elena bit her lip. Security. That word tasted bitter in her mouth. She gripped the dish towel tighter. "Speaking of security," she started, hesitating. She hated bringing this up. She hated the look he got in his eyes when she talked about money, the way his nose would wrinkle like he smelled something bad. "My mother called again. The home is increasing her fees next month. They need the payment by Friday, or they're going to move her to a shared room. You know how confused she gets. If she shares a room, she won't sleep. She'd get worse." Julian sighed, a long, exaggerated sound that seemed to suck all the air out of the room. He walked over to the workbench and picked up a microfiber cloth. "Elena, we discussed this. I told you the market is tight right now. I have a lot of cash tied up in this acquisition. You know how liquidity works." "But it's $5,000, Julian," Elena said, her voice trembling just a little. "You just spent $2 million on this car. You spent more on the shipping insurance for it than we need for my mom's care for a year. That is not the point." Julian snapped, his voice echoing off the concrete walls. He turned on her, his face hardening. "That car is an asset. Your mother is an expense. Assets grow. Expenses just drain you. I am working hard to build a legacy here, and you are worrying about a monthly bill? Can't you just handle it? Use your own savings if it's that important." Elena felt the words like a slap. Her own savings. She knew exactly how much was in her savings account. It was $112. She had been scraping together $20 here, $10 there from the grocery allowance he gave her. She skipped buying new clothes. She skipped buying herself warm coats in the winter. She ate leftovers so she could save that cash, hoping to surprise him by paying for a small repair or maybe just buying herself a book. But now he wanted her to drain it for her mother's care because he wouldn't part with a fraction of his fortune. "I don't have enough," she whispered. Then make it work, Julian said, turning his back to her again to polish a chrome rim that was already shining. I'm done talking about this. I'm having the guys over for drinks tonight to show off the GTO. Make sure the appetizers are ready. Nothing messy. No sticky fingers. He walked out of the garage, leaving her standing there alone. Elena looked at the car. It was beautiful, she supposed. It was perfect. Every curve was flawless. Every piece of chrome was mirror bright. And Julian loved it. He loved it with a fierce, protective love. He would kill anyone who tried to scratch it. He would spend a fortune to fix a single ding. He would stay up all night worrying about its safety. She looked down at her own hands. They were dry, the knuckles red from the cold water and the harsh soap she used. She looked at her sweater, old and worn out. She thought about her mother, sitting in a nursing home, wondering why her daughter never visited, wondering why she was being punished. Elena walked out of the garage and closed the door softly. She went into the kitchen and began to chop vegetables for the party. She chopped carrots and celery and arranged them on a platter with meticulous care. She made sure the dips were perfectly centered. She cleaned the house until it sparkled, wiping away every speck of dust, just like Julian liked it. Later that evening, the garage filled with men in expensive suits holding crystal glasses of scotch. The laughter was loud and booming. Julian stood by the Ferrari, his chest puffed out, holding court. He was telling the story of how he tracked the car down in Switzerland, how he outbid a collector from Japan. He was glowing. He looked happy. Truly happy. Elena stayed in the kitchen, refilling the ice bucket, listening to them. She heard one of the men say, "Julian, you really outdid yourself. This is a masterpiece. It's the crown jewel of your collection." "It is." Julian's voice drifted in. "It's the thing I'm most proud of. It's perfection." Elena stood by the counter, the ice cube melting in her hand. She wasn't angry. She was past anger. Anger takes energy, and she didn't have any left. She just felt a cold, heavy realization settle in her stomach. She looked around the kitchen. It was a beautiful kitchen, filled with top-of-the-line appliances she wasn't allowed to use because she might scratch them. She lived in a house that was worth millions, but she had nothing. She had no access to the money. She had no support. She had no partner. She walked to the junk drawer, the one where Julian never looked because it was full of useless things. She opened it and pushed aside the old batteries and the twist ties. In the back, behind a pack of chewing gum, was a small glass jar. It was an old pasta sauce jar she had washed out. She unscrewed the lid and looked inside. It was mostly ones and fives. A few $10 bills. She counted it slowly, laying the bills on the counter. $1, $2, $10. She counted it all twice. When she was done, the total sat there on the cold granite counter. $112. That was her net worth. That was the sum total of her freedom, her emergency fund, her life savings. Julian was standing 10 feet away, bragging about a $2 million toy. And she had $112 to her name. She looked out the window into the dark night. She knew her mother was scared. She knew she couldn't fix this. She couldn't fix Julian. She couldn't make him love her. She couldn't make him see her as a human being who needed help. To him, she was just part of the house, like the furniture. And like the furniture, she was expected to stay where he put her and not cost him anything. Elena screwed the lid back onto the jar. She put it in her pocket. She walked to the doorway of the garage one last time. Julian was laughing, his hand resting possessively on the car's roof. He didn't look at her. He didn't notice that she was standing there, or that she was crying silently, or that something inside her had just snapped and changed forever. "Good night, Julian," she whispered. But he didn't hear her over the sound of his own ego. She walked back to the bedroom, the weight of the $112 heavy in her pocket, and began to pack a small bag. She didn't pack much. Just a change of clothes and a photo of her mother. She sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the clock. It was midnight. The party was still going on. She wasn't running away. Not yet.
She realized something as she sat there in the dark.
Julian loved that car more than anything. He respected it because it was expensive.
He cared for it because it was rare. He didn't care about things that were cheap or easy to get. He didn't care about her because she was always there, always available, always free. Elena stood up and walked to the window. She looked down at the driveway. The car was safe. For now. But she knew that in this world, you had to speak a language people understood.
Julian's language was money. He only understood the value of things in dollars and cents.
If she wanted to hurt him the way he had hurt her, if she wanted him to finally understand what he had lost, she couldn't just leave.
She had to leave a mark. She had to make him feel the loss in his wallet. She lay down on the bed, fully dressed, and stared at the ceiling. The plan started to form in her mind, crazy and dangerous and perfect. She had $112. It wasn't enough to start a new life.
But it might just be enough to end his.
The sun was just beginning to rise when Julian's car disappeared down the long driveway.
He didn't look back at the house.
He didn't wave. He was probably already on the phone, discussing market trends or arranging a lunch with someone important.
The house was silent, a heavy, suffocating kind of silence that Elena had lived with for so long, it felt like a second skin. She stood in the kitchen for a long time,
holding the glass jar.
It felt heavy in her hand, heavier than glass and paper should be.
This was her escape fund, her rainy day money,
and now it was going to be used for something else entirely.
She wasn't running away today.
Running away felt like hiding.
Today, she was going to speak. Elena got into her old reliable sedan. It was a 10-year-old car with a dent in the bumper and a fabric seat that was torn on the driver's side.
It was the kind of car Julian refused to be seen in. As she drove away from the mansion,
she didn't look at the rearview mirror to see the beautiful house shrinking in the distance. She kept her eyes forward. She drove to the other side of town, where the buildings were made of brick and concrete and the sidewalks were cracked. This wasn't the neighborhood of high-end boutiques and art galleries.
This was where people went to work.
She pulled into the parking lot of a large hardware store.
The sign above the door was faded, and the automatic entrance squeaked as it slid open. Inside, the air smelled of sawdust and fertilizer. Elena walked purposefully, her sneakers squeaking on the linoleum floor.
She didn't browse. She knew exactly what she needed. It was a strange shopping list, one that would make no sense to anyone else. But it made perfect sense to her. She went to the tools section and found the hammers. She needed something heavy.
Something that could do damage.
She picked out a heavy-duty demolition hammer with a fiberglass handle.
It was bright yellow and black, and it looked brutal.
She lifted it, testing the weight in her hand.
It was solid.
It felt like power. Next, she went to the chemical aisle. She found a can of industrial-grade paint stripper. The label on the back had warnings about skin burns and toxic fumes.
It was harsh stuff, the kind of chemical that eats through everything.
She put 2 cans in her cart. Lastly, she went to the cleaning aisle. She bought a pack of heavy-duty trash bags and a pair of thick rubber gloves.
She pushed the cart to the checkout counter.
The clerk was a young man with tired eyes and a name tag that looked too new for his wrinkled uniform. He scanned the hammer, then the chemicals, then the bags. He looked up at her, a little confused. "Big project?" he asked, trying to make conversation.
"You have no idea,"
Elena said softly. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the crumpled bills. She smoothed them out on the counter, counting them carefully one last time. $112. The clerk counted the money, his fingers moving slowly.
He looked at the total on the screen.
"That comes to $109.50, he said. Elena nodded. "Keep the change."
She didn't wait for the receipt.
She put the bags in the trunk of her car, the hammer heavy and ominous among the groceries she had bought yesterday. She drove home, her heart beating a steady, rhythmic thud against her ribs. She wasn't nervous. She was surprisingly calm. She felt like a surgeon preparing for an operation or a musician before a concert. This was the most important thing she would ever do. When she got back to the house, the garage was closed. Julian always kept it closed to protect the climate. Elena parked her car outside and went in through the side door. She flipped on the lights. There it was. The Ferrari. It sat in the center of the space, glowing under the recessed lighting. It was perfect. It was arrogant. It looked like a creature that knew it was better than everything else around it. Julian had spent the morning before he left polishing it, so the red paint rippled like water. It was beautiful, yes, but to Elena, it looked like a monster. She closed the side door and locked it. She didn't want any interruptions. She didn't want the gardeners coming in to ask for instructions. She wanted to be alone with the machine. Elena put on her rubber gloves. They snapped against her wrists. She took the cans of paint stripper and the hammer and placed them on the floor next to the driver's side door. For a moment, she just stood there. She touched the door handle. It was cool to the touch. She thought about all the times Julian had touched this car, all the love he had poured into it. She thought about her mother in the nursing home, the woman who had sacrificed everything for her, now being treated like a burden. "It's just a car," she whispered to herself. "It's just metal and paint." She opened the first can of stripper. The smell was sharp and chemical, instantly stinging her nose and throat. She didn't care. She poured the thick gel-like liquid directly onto the hood of the car. It landed with a splat, thick and white. She poured more, drizzling it over the roof and down the side doors. She stood back and watched. At first, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the beautiful red paint began to blister. It bubbled up, turning ugly and brown, peeling away from the metal underneath. It looked like the car was diseased. It looked like it was rotting. Watching that perfect surface destroyed gave Elena a feeling she hadn't felt in years. It felt like taking a deep breath after holding it for too long. But the chemicals weren't enough. They ruined the look, but Julian could repaint it. He had the money for that. She needed to hurt the car where it couldn't be fixed easily. She needed to break its spirit. She picked up the hammer. It was heavy, much heavier than a regular household hammer. She wrapped both hands around the rubber grip. She looked at the windshield. It was curved glass, expensive and custom-made. It was the car's eyes. Elena didn't hesitate. She swung the hammer with every ounce of strength she had left in her tired arms. Crash. The sound was deafening in the quiet garage. The safety glass shattered instantly, collapsing into a million tiny cubes that sparkled like diamonds on the dashboard and the leather seats. The spiderweb crack pattern spread across the entire windshield, blocking out the view of the garage wall. She didn't stop. She couldn't stop. Once she started, the years of silence came pouring out of her. She swung again, this time at the side mirror. It snapped off and clattered to the floor. She moved to the hood, bringing the hammer down on the blistered, bubbling paint. The metal dented easily under the force of the blow. It crumpled like paper. She was sweating now. Her hair stuck to her forehead. Her breathing was heavy and ragged. She moved around the car, swinging the hammer blindly. She smashed the headlights. She caved in the door panels. She hit the fenders until the metal twisted and groaned. She destroyed the graceful lines that Julian loved so much. She turned the sleek curves into jagged scars. The garage was filled with noise, the crunch of glass, the thud of metal, the sound of her own grunting effort. It was a symphony of destruction. After what felt like hours, her arms finally gave out. She couldn't lift the hammer anymore. She leaned against the wall, sliding down until she hit the cold concrete floor. Her chest heaved up and down. She was covered in sweat and dust. The garage was a disaster. The air was thick with the smell of chemicals and broken glass. The Ferrari was unrecognizable. It looked like a carcass left on the side of the road. It was twisted, ruined, and worthless. $2 million, turned into junk by a woman with a $112 hammer and a broken heart. Elena stood up slowly. Her legs were shaking. She took off the rubber gloves and threw them into the trash bag along with the empty cans. She picked up the hammer and wiped it clean with a rag. She wasn't going to leave it. She wanted him to see exactly what was used. She walked to the workbench where Julian kept his expensive notepads and pens. She pulled out a sheet of thick, creamy paper. She took one of his fountain pens. This was the last part.
The message. She thought about what to say.
She wanted to scream at him. She wanted to curse him. But as the pen hovered over the paper, she realized that anger wasn't the point. The point was the truth. She wrote slowly, her handwriting neat and steady.
Just like it always was when she managed his schedule or wrote his thank you notes. Asterisk.
You told me we couldn't afford the medicine to keep my mother comfortable because you were investing in our future.
This car was our future. I used my grocery money, $112, to buy the tools to destroy it. It turns out it was very easy to break something so expensive.
Just like it was easy for you to break me.
The car is worth nothing now. I hope it was worth it.
Asterisk. She read it over once. It was perfect. It was cold, direct, and devastating. Elena walked back to the ruined car. She opened the mangled driver's door, which screeched in protest as it moved. She placed the note gently on the driver's seat, right in the center where he would see it the moment he looked inside. She weighed it down with the heavy hammer so the wind wouldn't blow it away. She took one last look at the scene.
The shattered glass on the ground, the peeled paint, the note resting on the destruction. It looked like the end of a movie. She walked out of the garage, closing the door behind her. She walked through the quiet house, past the kitchen where she had chopped vegetables for him the night before, past the living room where they never sat together. She went to the front door, opened it, and stepped out into the bright afternoon sun. She didn't look back. She got into her car with the torn seat and drove away. She didn't know where she was going to sleep tonight, and she didn't know how she was going to help her mother. But for the first time in 10 years, the weight was gone.
She wasn't the ghost in his house anymore. She was the woman who broke the curse. The drive home was the best part of Julian's day. He had just closed a deal that would make him even richer, and the sun was shining through the trees, casting dappled shadows on the road. He was humming a tune, thinking about the bottle of expensive scotch sitting on his desk at home. He couldn't wait to go into the garage, just to look at the Ferrari. It calmed him down. It was his proof that he was winning at life. He turned onto his street and pressed the button on his sun visor to open the garage door. As he neared the house, the door began to rise. Julian slowed down, expecting to see the bright red shine of the car greeting him. Instead, he slammed on his brakes. The tires screeched on the asphalt. Something was wrong. The light inside the garage was flickering,
and the air looked hazy, like there was dust or smoke in the air.
Julian pulled into the driveway, leaving his car running, and jumped out. He didn't close the door. He ran toward the garage, his heart suddenly hammering against his ribs. The smell hit him first, a sharp chemical stench that burned his nose. It smelled like paint stripper and bleach.
When he reached the garage entrance, he stopped.
He couldn't move. His brain refused to accept what his eyes were seeing. The Ferrari was gone.
Well, not gone, but it wasn't a car anymore.
It was a pile of twisted metal and shattered glass. The beautiful red paint was peeling off in strips, revealing ugly bubbling metal underneath. The windshield was a cave-in of safety glass. The hood was crumpled like a piece of paper. The headlights were smashed out, leaving dark, hollow eye sockets. Julian let out a sound that wasn't really a word. It was a strangled gasp. He ran to the car, stepping on crunching glass that crunched under his expensive leather shoes. He reached out to touch the door, but jerked his hand back. The metal was jagged. The side mirror was hanging by a wire, swinging slightly in the breeze. "No, no, no," he whispered. "This isn't real." He spun around, looking for an intruder, looking for a vandal, looking for anyone to blame. "Elena!" he screamed. His voice was high and panicked. "Elena! Call the police. Call the security company." He waited for her to come running. He waited for her to ask what was wrong. But the house was silent. The only sound was the ticking of his cooling car engine in the driveway. "Elena!" he screamed again, louder this time. He ran into the house, leaving the destroyed car behind. Elena, get down here. Someone destroyed the Ferrari. He ran through the kitchen. It was empty. The counters were clean. There was no dinner cooking. There was no smell of food. He ran to the living room. It was quiet. He ran up the stairs, taking them two at a time. Elena! He burst into the master bedroom. It looked neat, too neat. He ran to her closet. He threw the doors open. His heart stopped. The hangers were swinging. Half of them were empty. Her sweaters, her jeans, her old coats, they were gone. The shelves where she kept her shoes were bare. He ran to the bathroom. Her toothbrush was gone. Her hairbrush was gone. The small bottle of perfume he bought her 3 years ago was missing. Julian stood in the middle of the bedroom, his chest heaving. He looked at the bed. It was made perfectly. On her pillow there was nothing. Just the white linen case. She wasn't here. She hadn't just gone out to the store. She had left him. The panic shifted into a cold, heavy dread. He walked slowly back down the stairs, his hand gripping the railing so hard his knuckles turned white. He walked back into the garage. The smell of chemicals seemed stronger now, choking him. He approached the wreckage of the car again. This time he noticed something he hadn't seen in his first shock. On the driver's seat, amidst the shattered glass that covered the leather, there was a piece of paper. It was weighed down by a heavy yellow hammer. Julian reached in carefully, avoiding the sharp edges of the broken window, and grabbed the paper. He recognized the stationery. It was his expensive cream-colored paper that he kept in his study. He recognized the handwriting. It was Elena's neat, careful script. He unfolded the note. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold it. Asterisk. You told me we couldn't afford the medicine to keep my mother comfortable because you were investing in our future. This car was our future. I used my grocery money, $112, to buy the tools to destroy it. It turns out it was very easy to break something so expensive. Just like it was easy for you to break me. The car is worth nothing now. I hope it was worth it. Asterisk. Julian read the words once. Then he read them again. The words didn't make sense to him at first. He read them a third time, and the meaning began to sink in, turning his blood to ice. Asterisk. Grocery money. $112. Asterisk. He looked at the hammer on the seat. It was a cheap, heavy-duty tool from a hardware store. He looked at the damage. $2 million of engineering, destroyed by a hammer that cost less than a lunch at his club. He sank to the floor. He didn't care that he was sitting in broken glass. He didn't care that his suit was being ruined by the chemicals on the ground. He looked at the twisted metal in front of him. He thought about the day before. He thought about her standing in the kitchen, asking for money for her mother. He remembered the look in her eyes. He had ignored it. He had told her to use her own savings. He had told her the car was an investment. He looked at the note again. Asterisk. I used my grocery money. Asterisk. Julian put his head in his hands. A wave of nausea washed over him. He realized then that he didn't know how much money she had. He never asked. He just assumed she had plenty because he gave her a credit card for groceries. He didn't know that she was saving cash in a jar. He didn't know that she only had $112 to her name. And she used it all. She didn't use it to run away. She didn't use it to buy something nice for herself. She used it to destroy the thing he loved most. She wanted him to feel the loss. She wanted him to know what it felt like to have something valuable taken away because of money. He looked around the empty garage. The silence was deafening. For years he had complained about her presence. He had complained that she was always there, always needing something, always background noise in his life. He had wanted freedom. He had wanted peace. Now he had it. He sat there for a long time. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the garage. The ruined car looked like a skeleton in the dim light. Julian thought about calling the police. He could report her. He could tell them she vandalized his property. He had lawyers. He could ruin her. But as he sat there holding the note, he knew he wouldn't.
He couldn't, because she was right. He had broken her first. He had chipped away at her spirit year after year, ignoring her needs, treating her like an employee instead of a wife. He had valued this car more than he valued her happiness. And she had shown him exactly what that looked like. She had held up a mirror to his soul, and the reflection was ugly. The car could be fixed. He had the money. He could ship it to the best restorers in Italy. In 2 years, it would be perfect again. It would be shiny and red and worth millions. He could replace the glass, the paint, the metal dot, but he couldn't replace Elena. He realized with a sudden crushing clarity that he was alone. Truly alone. The house was empty. The kitchen was cold. There was no one to make dinner. There was no one to listen to him brag about his day. There was no one to care if he came home or not. He looked at the $112 hammer again. It was such a small amount of money. It was nothing to him. He dropped that much on a tie without thinking. But to her, it was everything she had. It was her life savings. And she spent it all just to hurt him one time. Julian felt a tear roll down his cheek. It wasn't for the car. It was for the years he had wasted. It was for the woman who had loved him until she couldn't do it anymore. He stood up slowly. His legs felt weak. He folded the note and put it in his pocket. He looked at the destroyed Ferrari one last time. It was just a pile of junk now. It had no power over him. It was just metal. It was cold and dead. He walked out of the garage and hit the button to close the door. The grinding noise of the motor filled the evening air as the door slid down, hiding the wreckage from the world. Julian stood in the driveway, watching the sun disappear behind the trees. The air was getting cold. He shivered. He turned and walked toward the house, but he stopped at the front door. He didn't want to go inside. It was too big. It was too quiet. He looked at his car, the one he drove home. It was just a car. It was just a way to get around. Julian stood in the twilight, a wealthy man with millions in the bank, a ruined car in the garage, and a broken heart. For the first time in his life, he understood what it meant to be poor.